Good morning, Coffee Moaners. Welcome to Coffee Moaning. We are here Monday through to Saturday. We're not here because we're in a secret location. If you could please hit the subscribe button. It's only Mark and I running this whole channel in which we give you many daily updates of the madness of the world. We give you movie reviews, TV reviews, vlogs, gardening show. What else?
Movie reviews, TV
Cookery,
reviews, mental health.
And
everything.
It's just everything. The two of us. So you're just hitting that subscribe button and sharing our videos, especially our videos about Gaza, because we want to get that out.
And we also have a membership area. One thing I would like to say, because a lot of people will be coming here and have come here and have landed through this awful crisis of Gaza, but also through Trump's America, etc. What we talk about here is how we feel. Obviously, we try and look at things from all perspectives, but we don't make a secret of the fact of where our politics lie, where our sympathies lie, where we feel progressive in certain areas. But we try to always be authentic. We try to always be honest in everything that we say and feel. Those politics and that attitude threads through all the content on our channel. We have some real regulars, historic followers who've been with us from the get-go, from dot. We do, a vlog is landing later today, for example. We won't necessarily talk about politics in there, but it can sometimes pop up, like it will be threaded through like a march or something like that. It's interwoven into our everyday lives. So it's not like we're those performative influencers that suddenly go, hey, you guys, here's a da-da-da-da. Unless it's a review of a film or a review of something very specific, everything we feel and talk about here in Coffee Moaning percolates out into the rest of our content. Because for example, even in a gardening film, there'll be a bipolar moment, and we will embrace that. You know what I mean? It's all
Mark has bipolar, not just bipolar. But also we aren't journalists, so we don't cover every bit of news. We just cover what's getting us as a family talking. And often we will, because we have such a good community here, often we will think, oh, so and so would want us to talk about this or whatever. Yeah. So we're not
journalists, but I would say my first job was as a journalist, and it was as an arts correspondent. We are also broadcasters. Nadia is a broadcast presenter in the UK, and we both come from a broadcast background. So we understand the due diligence, we understand the legalities, we understand how careful you have to be, even in this new landscape of social media. So we have some skin in the game when it comes to the inauthentic practices of the mainstream media, if you get what I mean.
So, Louise says, apart from the hot tub build video where you said, hey, you guys, when I was doing the mock influencer. Yeah. Hey, guys.
But, and so we like to put out stuff that's funny, silly, entertaining, comedic, stupid. You'll get DIY films. You're probably not going to get politics in DIY, though God only knows, you might with us. Who knows?
But anyway, today and what we're talking about.
Stuart G, you know more than the so-called journalists. Well, I want to say right up front, many of the topics we're talking about this morning speak to a really, really depressing state of British journalism. It really does. You go online, most of the news you receive from these online news outlets, which used to be the papers, so many of them are written by AI. They pump the details in and they regurgitate them. No interrogative analysis is in there. No historic context is ever given. It's like really is piss poor.
It's like when I'm on Loose Women, I never ever look on any of the online. I never look at anything written about me. No, sometimes people send me stuff, and I'm like, it was the most bizarre sentence taken out of context, and then a headline made out of it. It's honestly. They're kids or AI.
The journalism is sometimes so bad that when they've copied and pasted a comment from the content of an Instagram, they've spelt it incorrectly. How? It's bizarre. Anyway.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. We love you too. Right.
So what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about why, in the spirit of talking about the UK press, why are people gunning for Greta Thunberg? I'm going to call her Thunberg. It's easier for me. Why are the press going for Greta Thunberg? Why are they really targeting her? I'm going to show you a couple of headlines. Now look, when I say I can't believe, quickly people rush in and go, why are you surprised? I'm not surprised. I have to articulate it because I'm a human being who has a human soul. And so I literally am forever not surprised, but shocked.
I always want to be shocked. I always want to be shocked.
Yeah.
And can I just pause you for a second? You can say Thunberg. We just have to keep in mind.
Thunberg.
Because it's like when people used to say to me, do you mind if I don't say your surname because it's too difficult?
Greta Thunberg.
Thunberg.
Okay, so I didn't realise it.
We've said it so much as Thunberg. We've only just really learned it's Thunberg.
Apologies.
So
we're going to be talking about Greta Thunberg. We're going to be talking about the current situation in Los Angeles, a few more clips, remarkable statements, some images.
Unbelievable again.
Some images from LA. And we're going to talk about something that I know a number of followers of mine have been in touch with me. It's a hard one, this, to kind of always pick on the right moment to talk about it. But this is I've put that in the title as a question, because they're not necessarily wanting to ban homeschooling, but is the British government really going to make homeschooling so impossible to do, or home educating so impossible to do, that it's actually not going to be home educating?
And we're going to do that at the end, because we're aware that a lot of people might not be interested in homeschooling. But if you are, boy, God, you really are, aren't you? As ex-homeschoolers, you're just hungry for anyone to talk about it. So
let's start with, I just want to, it's always a strong conversation starter. I want to start with, this is the headline in the Sun newspaper. Now, no one is pretending or sitting here purporting the Sun to be this beacon of journalistic integrity. Quite the opposite. But this is their headline: good riddance, not in inverted commas, this is the most important thing, not in inverted commas. So this isn't them quoting someone. This is the Sun saying good riddance. I mean, nice detail there, in Israeli flag blue. Greta Thunberg deported by Israel after Freedom Flotilla Gaza stunt after refusing to watch horrifying October 7th video. The Swedish eco-warrior was taken to dry land yesterday after Israeli authorities seized the yacht. Just unpack that.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that blue, Mark.
Yeah, breaking news in the flag of Israel. Good riddance, not in quotes. This is really important, because a lot of the mainstream media here will, certainly the Telegraph, the Mail, all of the right-wing papers, and other papers that should know better, and broadcasters like the BBC, they might put all of their headlines have in inverted commas what Israel said.
Yeah, and again, just like in a more homestead way, for instance, on Loose Women, if you're not from this country, that's a show that's on.
It's like The View in America.
Yeah. And what they will do is they'll take something that's been said about a panelist, right, from maybe a Twitter follower that's got maybe a Twitter person that's maybe got 100 followers, and say the audience say, and then it'll be some awful thing that they've said, and it would look like that the entire audience hates this panelist and thinks X, Y, Z.
Well, more often than not as well, the reason publications use things in inverted commas, it's because the paper wants to say that,
but they find somebody else so they can say it's that. But they are proud to say good riddance.
But on this instance, it's so majorly significant. And where do they put the inverted commas? Around Freedom Flotilla. So much there, isn't there? So much there that most people wouldn't spend time even unpacking, but it has the effect.
Yes, very good. Lots of people giving their opinions on why they think people.
Lucy May. Journalists are mostly male in this country, I'd imagine. I think Greta holds up a mirror to the gammons, and that angers them.
Absolutely.
She has more bravery than all of them. They hate because they fear.
I think you are absolutely right.
I tell you what I love about it. So many gammons come under, certainly they come under Nadia's, and they go, why don't you go out there? And why don't you go to Gaza? And it's like, well, A, you can't. And B,
you've seen what happens if you go to Gaza.
And B, you get shot, not by anyone other than the Israeli Defense Force at the moment. But when she did what they asked of her, they don't like it, do they? They still have to get cross about it.
It's like when they say, too opinionated, under a show about having opinions. Loose Women, they'll say, oh, no, I can't stand her. She's too opinionated.
Right. I like this comment here. Shauna Roche. These are the things GCSE media students would be told to look into: the words, the colours, the pictures. I often try and turn this into a media class. Everything put together purposefully to push forward their views and opinions. All these choices are made. Every single decision in that simple little headline there has been made to completely diminish. And even the fact that it's breaking news. Well, hang on a minute. We had really breaking news when they were boarded and when they were absconded, when white chemicals. I didn't see them doing breaking news at that point. There was no that. This really isn't breaking news.
This really isn't. It's some horrible little person in the sun, but bullying Greta Thunberg again.
Yeah.
Well, so did you want more holidays without feeling like you've been told you shouldn't be getting on 100 flights a year? Didn't.
So here's an image of Greta on the flight going back. I want to ask a question. I don't know exactly what that, obviously the Hebrew there means. I got slightly concerned about why she again was wearing a sort of rosette, a color in the color of the Israeli.
No, that's her jacket.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. I thought, I thought it'd been tied around.
No, I thought that when I first, but when I looked into it, it's her jacket tied around her.
She looks thoroughly unimpressed with the whole situation, which is fine. God only knows what they've been through. I'm sure we'll hear from them in due course.
So if she
refused to watch the October 7th.
Refused to watch the October 7th video, she was deported. What bizarre.
No, apparently the reason she's been deported, four people have been deported, but 8 haven't because they are disputing the deportation. I think the ones that are refusing the deportation terms are still continuing, in a sense, their some kind of protest. There's a strange sort of legality and technicality there. But yeah, that's the image of Greta this morning or today on a flight, and I think they're flying her to France. Leans, oh, that's interesting. Let's pop that up. I do like to hear opinions like this sometimes. The West is the least democratic place in the world. Can't even send baby formula to starve kids. I'd say that the West has a profound problem. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. And democracy, as we have all been brought up to understand democracy, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. I mean, obviously there are freer places, but that freedom, which you're going to find out in a minute about the most shocking story that I saw break about 3 weeks ago, but is gaining traction today. We're going to talk about that.
I worry for the safety of the others not so well-known activists that are still there. Exactly, Michelle, Georgina, June. I know the Turkish consulate are talking, aren't they? Because I think there's 2 Turkish.
The only nation to have summoned the envoy, the Israeli envoy, is Spain. Spain is the only country to have said, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Whereas Sweden said, "There's no problem.
Yeah.
We've warned our citizens not to travel to Gaza." It's like, you're not worried at all how you're going to go down in the history books. This is actually,
in the spirit of transparency, there was a statement from the 10 Downing Street yesterday.
Oh yes, there was. Yeah,
and it said something along the
lines.
Let me
be
clear. We are appalled and unhappy with the lack of humanitarian aid. Fuck me. I tell you what, Starmer's cruising for a bruising. If he keeps trotting that one out, Greta
of course,
in
a political
denial.
Bruising. He doesn't mean an actual bruising. Just have to cover ourselves with everything.
Greta in denial. Greta Thunberg and Freedom Flotilla activists refuse to watch footage of October the 7th.
They make that sound like they are doing something wrong for refusing, when actually it is a form of torture to force anyone to do anything, isn't it?
They're making out that's worse than what Israel is doing.
The fact that they won't watch a video is worse than the stuff. This is what the press are going with, and you know, the world is starving a population to death. The world is. We're all involved in this. But hey, let's all pick on Greta Thunberg for refusing to take part in Israel's propaganda.
Hang on, we've got a great one here. I'm not going to put it up, but Dave says, why don't you lot sod off over there?
Because they won't let us, Dave.
Oh, Dave.
We would go.
If only that
but
was
you're not allowed in.
If only you were the first person to have had that incredibly complex
Also, we're not allowed in.
It's too funny. Yeah. Too funny. Okay, so obviously, we're in a situation where some are being sent home, are being deported, others aren't. We're going to hear more about that. But I do want to talk about, I do want to show this. This is a clip with, this is what Donald Trump had to say on the matter. I hope this is the right clip.
You have a message for Greta Thunberg, and did she come up on your call with the Prime Minister today?
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually, but I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class. That's my primary recommendation for her.
So she's a young angry woman and he's an old angry man.
Yeah, and if you're not angry about a genocide, there's something seriously wrong with you.
Yeah.
I mean, she's young and angry. He held himself back from saying, and she doesn't wear makeup, high heels, and pencil skirts, because that's what makes a decent woman in Trump's eyes. And you've got to be blonde.
Unfortunately, in new breaking news, Piers Morgan has pivoted back towards pure twatdom.
People running around going, good on Greta Thunberg. She's really changed my mind about what's happening there. They've all gone, hang on a sec, you're calling yourself a kidnap victim, and your kidnappers are giving you food and then taking you to a safe place afterwards. Why would you use that kind of analogy when actually the war is raging, as you know, because Israel is determined to kill all the Hamas terrorists and get their hostages back who actually were kidnapped?
I think you are the only one left who still believes the killing all Hamas terrorists. Piers, frankly, Israel has such a
I said that's what Israel is. I said that's what Israel has said it is trying to do.
Not killing Hamas terrorists.
I've actually been hang on. I've been very just to be clear, Francesca. I've been very critical of the Israeli government in the last
but you're
week.
still mentioning that Israel is killing terrorists.
I'm repeating their mission statement, which they said was to eradicate Hamas and get their terrorists and get their hostages.
I didn't say that this is performative at all, rather the contrary. And the fact that you and I are speaking of this boat is while you have not been interviewing me about the other flotilla who was hit in the middle of international waters, and it was deflagged, which is an incredible violation of people's safe sailing and security. When it happened a couple of weeks ago, it's people like, sorry, I'm not saying people like you, but the media is quite sensationalist, and it has been salivating around the fact that there was Greta Thunberg on the boat. I've never talked to Greta in the context of this mission. I've been talking to the captain and to the communication room on the ground because I was just interested. You know, Piers, people in Gaza are seriously starving as they are bombed every day without respite. 400 people are killed every day. And I've seen a glimpse of hope on the face of many because they were waiting for the flotilla. There should be more flotilla.
Come on, you don't believe that for a moment.
And then
you don't believe that. I'm sorry,
present.
Francesca. It's simply ridiculous to think that anyone in Gaza thought that this flotilla was actually going to get anywhere near them and give them any of the relatively meager supplies they had. The only person who ended up being fed was Greta Thunberg by the IDF. How is that anything but a painful embarrassment? And a stunt?
Do you really believe Israeli propaganda throwing sandwiches at them while of course, the answer was give it to the people in Gaza. Come on, Piers. Come on.
Hang on. What he's wanting to do, Piers, and it's so cynical, and he's completely, we have talked honestly, and again, going back to this idea of authentic, literally too little, too late in my book when he started to kind of attack the various kind of representatives that Israel sends out, the kind of, the prefects and head boys and girls that are never asked or challenging questions. But he's trying to do the impossible. He's trying to have his cake and eat it. He's trying to navigate this very tricky line where he's not appearing to be an apologist for either side, and he's holding each side to equal account. I think it's totally spurious to say that Greta Thunberg being on this ship didn't transform the significance and symbolism of this.
Interesting. One of our daughters said to us, wow, God, it's so brilliant that Greta was on the boat, wasn't it? She says, I'm seeing, people that I've known all the way through that have never said a thing, and they're all engaged with it now. So, when he says, you see, what I would have loved to have done, everyone, no one, the way he does, because he said, I haven't seen anyone. Everyone, really? Yeah. Everyone. So give us the names then. Yeah. Who's that then, Piers?
Yeah, exactly, everyone. I want to read this because it made me laugh, and I do apologise because I sit in the camp that you find intolerable. Theoretical finance. I have to go. My long-standing hatred of white males is returning. I must repress it. It is a vice. Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, I just want to quickly talk about this story as well. That was Piers. So we've seen two gammons pulling down a 22-year-old woman who is passionate and
Who
principled.
gives a shit about
and
something
cares.
other than her own needs.
Absolutely.
She
tells you-
literally put her life on the line whilst you're sitting in your comfy chair, Trump and peers, who would never, ever stand up for anything where you are the least bit uncomfortable.
I think most people see it for what it is, apart from Dave. But hopefully Dave's having a cup of tea now. Foreign Office staff told to consider resigning. Listen to this, guys.
This is the one that just came in.
Yeah, Miss Harriman has posted this, but this is a story that I saw 2 weeks ago. And I think the reason it's landing today is because a third letter or a second or third letter, it's been doubled down on basically. Foreign Office staff are told to consider resigning if they disagree over Gaza. And I'm now going to read you the more
So
from
we
this piece.
literally have thought police now.
This is quite concerning, and it speaks to why, and I think me too, but it'd be fascinating to know what you think, because these are, the civil service is where the wheels of our so-called democracy and the rules-based system operate. Unless you have a sort of, you know, a kind of sea of opinions and points of view and an ability to challenge, question and comment in this area, then really you're an authoritarian society where your government just says one thing and you just do it. So more than 300 Foreign Office staff who raised concerns about potential UK complicity in Israel's conduct in Gaza were told that if they profoundly disagree with government policy, they should consider resigning.
So unless you agree with genocide,
Yeah.
unless you agree with a genocide, let's name it.
So the
right?
staff letter has
That's
been,
what that letter should say. Unless you are in line with us facilitating a genocide, then you must resign. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah. The staff letter, seen by the BBC, was sent to Foreign Secretary David Lammy last month. In it, officials questioned the UK's continued arms sales, as most humanitarians and people who observe international humanitarian law have. And they questioned what they called a stark disregard for international law by Israel. These are experts. These are civil service experts. The Foreign Office said it had systems for staff to raise concerns and added that the government had rigorously applied international law, even though these people are responsible for defining what that is.
Rigorously applied?
Yeah, in relation to Gaza. The reply to the staff letter sent by Sir Oliver Robbins and Nick Dyer, two of the most senior civil servants in the Foreign Office, said this: if your disagreement with any aspect of government policy or action is profound, your ultimate recourse is to resign from the civil service. Get this line: this is an honourable course.
Wow.
This is shocking. This is government complicit. Our government is complicit in the commissioning of a genocide, the arming of a genocide, and the suppression.
And now the thought policing of a genocide.
And it's the suppression of thought and policy, policy querying. You can't prevent the civil service.
How dare we?
From
How dare we call
querying
ourselves
policy.
a democracy? How dare we? How dare we?
Now, the problem with this story, which is perhaps why it didn't gain purchase 2 weeks ago, is, again, in this busy news landscape, it requires
Things
just
are
a
getting
little bit of
slipped
attention.
through.
And it needs attention, and it needs to be shared. I think it needs to be put out. It needs to be talked about. Essentially, anyone in the civil service who queries the government's policy and assessment of what Israel's doing in Gaza,
I've been told they're welcome to resign, and it would be honourable.
It's honourable if you resign.
Honourable to resign. Wow.
I'm telling you now, that's Kafkaesque and Orwellian all at the same time.
Wow.
Both parties are the same, says DP. Look,
absolutely.
we are being left with little else to draw from this, DP. You're absolutely right. Last government stopped protesters are right. Both parties are the same. Where is freedom of speech?
Exactly.
We are
freedom of speech is about a very particular group having freedom, just like we're seeing in America, and everyone else is supposed to shut up and sit down and behave.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting that, as someone just said, civil service is still an old boys game, an old boys club network. That if there's that amount of opposition in there, if there's still that amount, do you know what I mean? From a walk of life that it's got to be pretty stark. I think there's got to be. I think Me Too.
Oh, that's a great way to put this one up. Is it Shakira? Sorry, my glasses. I can't seem to clean them.
So the civil service don't want honourable people working there. Oh.
Very good.
Very,
Nice.
very
Back of the
clever.
neck. Shakira.
Very clever. Shakira Al-Bard. I think Nadia should nick that and use it in her Instagram post, if it's all right. So the civil service doesn't want honourable people.
I'm going to nick it, Shakira.
That's very good.
That's very good.
Me too. I would disagree with the Old Boys Network. My experience is different. There are many more women. Well, okay. Let me rephrase that. I would say that the BBC is run by private school kids. Most of them are actually women. So regardless of gender, the Old Boys Girls Network, let's call it that. It's an Old Boys Girls Network. Do you know what I mean? This is a shocking story. This is a shocking story. Do go to Miss and Harriman, and I do think we should do something on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, LA. I've got my LA hat on.
God, look at that, Louise. My kids are doing a walk for Gaza on Sunday, and my husband won't come. Civil servant. Because he's worried.
My husband won't come.
Because that would be because he's worried about work, or because he doesn't agree.
Wow.
Oh my God. The amount of people.
John Wallace, I
come up
suspect
to me
it's the
and
very
wonder-
top of the civil service that are the problem. Only the worst ones are allowed to get to the very. Absolutely.
Exactly. And then they make the decisions.
So right, John. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, look at most management. You get completely, hideous individuals in positions of authority, preventing everyone with the skill set and the creativity to make the right decisions from doing it because they're threatened by their underlings. That's the way it works. It's just such a messed up system.
And these QR card, if you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stomping on a human face. We're there, aren't we?
Well, let's go over to
America.
Let's go over to America. This was Donald Trump. I'm just going to play this.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I was Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think he's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows it. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under.
Hang on a minute. He's talking about Gavin Newsom. He's talking about his immigration czar essentially arresting Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, and he gets into a sort of mine's bigger than yours chat about his flagpole versus Gavin Newsom's
Apparently took
railroad.
a whole half day deciding where that flag went because there was quite a lot online saying, Jesus Christ, is there not anything better than
How under or over
having
budget can
a
a
photo
flagpole
taken
go?
everywhere while he was pointing at the flag? Well, apparently he paid for it himself.
Yeah, but call me old-fashioned. The engineering required for a flagpole isn't the same as a railway.
As a
line.
railway. But also when he was asked why he should be arrested, what was wrong with him, he said for applying to be governor.
Okay, so the situation in LA has got worse. I think a further 2,000 National Guard have been sent. 700 Marines have also been sent. This is Marines.
The ones in the sea.
They're the soldiers. They're commandos.
Oh.
They're proper soldiers.
Why did I always think they were Marine? Or maybe I'm thinking of maritime.
Yeah, Navy. You think Navy?
thinking Navy.
Marines aren't Marines the ones that come in off boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do
So
landings.
why have they
and stuff
brought
like that.
him? Why have they brought them?
Because they're near the coast. I don't know.
And he loves a headline. So
Yeah.
it's another way to get another headline.
So we now have 4,700 National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles. And from all the footage I've seen, they vastly outnumber any of the protesters. They're all standing around streets, not looking like they particularly know what to do. But that's not to say that there aren't moments of violence erupting, that damage to property isn't happening. I mean, sometimes in America, damage to property is seen as almost more significant than shooting someone. It's really weird.
Well, it's a bit like that here. If you steal, you get a longer sentence than if you sexually
Yeah,
assault.
Marines are the top. They
right.
almost
They're
like
the
they're
dog's
like
bollocks.
commandos. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So the fact that we've got 4,700, I want to play you now. She's not shrouded in sort of positive vibes. The mayor of Los Angeles.
Due
She's
to
not.
her
Yeah.
very strange behaviour around the fires.
Well, she had a very odd. Yes, there's a lot of opposition in Los Angeles, a lot of anger. I saw even the wonderful actress, the young actress from Hacks, is posting a lot about what's currently going on in LA, and she was really angry with the mayor. But I do just want to play you this in full because it just gives you a sort of straight from the horse's mouth sense. I think a lot of what, parking to the side all of her other choices, I think a lot of what she says here is spot on. So have a listen to this.
Is enough the level of fear and terror that is in Angelenos right now, not knowing if tomorrow or tonight it might be where they live, it might be their workplace. Should you send your kids to school? Should you go to work? And you remember this from several years ago, this same type of fear that was going around. But I heard today about something that is so over the top. Can you imagine having your annual appointment to ICE, your annual appointment? You're here, you might not be a citizen, but you have papers, and you are told that you need to go to the facility to check in. And then you are detained, and you go with your family and your kids, and the whole family is detained when you were legal and you were trying to maintain your legal status. So what this means then is that people are going to be afraid to maintain their appointments, which then pushes them into the closet, and they will fall out of status and then subject to arrest. This is the kind of thing that is happening in our city right now. And I will just take you back to last Thursday. Last Thursday, there was nothing happening in this town that called for the raids that took place on Friday. Nothing was happening. Nothing warranted the raids. If you remember at the beginning of this administration, we were told that raids would be to look for violent criminals, people who had warrants. But I don't know how you go from a drug dealer to a Home Depot, to people's workplaces where they're just trying to make a living. At Home Depot, you have day laborer centers so that the people that are trying to seek work each and every day will have a place to be so that it doesn't interfere with the business. These are not the people that we were told were going to be detained. And it makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens in the nation's second largest city. Well, maybe we can do this to other cities.
Like Gaza, I believe, is an area that's being tested for the control and subjugation of entire peoples. I think she's spot on. LA is being used as a test case. And someone made a really interesting point. I forget, I think it might have been you, YouTube, yesterday. It's interesting to note that Trump isn't homing in on those Republican states where there is a strong immigration migrant population and potentially, unpapered kind of migrants, such as, say, Miami, because there would be uproar against the Republican authorities because all the businesses there depend on the employment of these documented or undocumented migrants.
Now, we don't know anything about Gavin Newsom. We've heard recently he's very pro-Israel, so he's like for us, and got no idea what kind of governor he is or politician. He might be absolute crap. But one thing I would say separate from all of that is, isn't it great to see the opposition actually getting vocal?
Yes.
Because the Democrats are hiding from every single fucking conversation.
Any opposition.
They're going, well, we better not say anything about here because this is immigration. You're just, you know what? You're going to get Trump voted back in. He's going to do another 4 years.
Shakara says, well, this is a test for sure. There are other mass anti-ICE protests in other states and cities, and the National Guard and the Marines have not been deployed there yet. It's getting a little bit argy-bargy in New York.
And all this stuff about LA is a hellhole. No, it's not.
It's getting a little argy-bargy in New York. It really is. Well, I would beg to differ on that. I mean, I do think that many...
a hellhole of crime. And
no.
It's like Gavin Newsom said, Texas has a much higher murder rate. Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I mean, like you said there, Michu, what was it? Not happening in red states, despite these being more undocumented. They're being more undocumented in those states. What was I going to say? Trump and Newsom are both absolutely dreadful, says Bailey.
Okay.
The mayor of Los Angeles, a rank incompetent American, is in deep doo-doo. I mean, look, you can have, for sure, you can have two who are equally useless and not particularly good.
But I think, most of the world agrees that you've got to have somebody that's pushing back on Trump, even if he's as much of a prick as Trump.
Yeah, me too. LA has always been an easy target because it's seen as the home of liberty.
I mean, one of the things Newsom has said, isn't it, that we should withhold our taxes, but then they really will be able to put them in prison.
Yeah, it's not an experiment, says Mayor. It's a crackdown. LA is very progressive, very stable democratic state, self-proclaimed safe state for illegals, queers, and women. Yeah, and I personally think Trump would be more than happy for the rest of America to go to war with California.
He hates
California so much. So shall we move on to homeschooling?
Yeah, homeschooling.
Okay, so this is let me just pull up the new home education law, which is let me get the title of it. What the heck is happening? This is the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill. That is, I believe, coming in for what's called its second reading. Any new bill has to go through various processes of being read by the House, analysed, poured over, second reading, where they kind of discuss it, and then they sort of make amendments and all this kind of stuff. And so it takes time. But this proposal is something that I know a number of followers of ours or people have kind of contacted us and said, could you talk about this? And you could argue, well, why today? I think it's about to approach its second reading, so it's kind of falling back into the kind of the news. And in this bill is quite worrying. One of the reasons one home educates is because the system does not fit or align with your child, and your child might not fit or align with the system. I think we've talked many times about it. Education is not a very successful, fluent, and agreeable sector of society at the moment. Kids are stressed, the education system, schools are unruly.
Schools can do nothing about bullying.
Schools can do nothing about bullying.
If you have a child with additional needs, that is finding school very stressful.
Yeah.
If you have a sensitive child, if you have a child that is summer baby, what was that? One of our children is a year younger than everyone else in their class. It's if you have a child that's not been well and then is deemed behind and deemed never ever be able to catch up. There's so many different reasons why school doesn't work for kids. Bullying is a huge thing. We've spoken to many teachers that have said there's actually
they can't do anything
there's
about
nothing
bullying.
a school can do for bullying. You're not really, if your child's been bullied in school, as you all know, we had it in the past. You go in, you're given a bit of flannel, aren't you? Go away and the whole thing continues. You try and approach parents, the whole thing continues. So a lot of people that homeschool their kids do it for any of those reasons. Some people homeschool their kids because they actually don't want their children to be in the hands of other people for 6-7 hours, slavishly following a curriculum that doesn't actually, for a lot of people, many kids, the best place for them is school, and they thrive and they love it and they do well, and that's why school is fantastic for a lot of people, but not for all. And we certainly did not like when our kids actually went back to the school. It was very sad to see how they were suddenly coming back going, oh my God, isn't English lit boring? It sounds so boring.
I mean, the
system
does make so many subject matters, and this is not a criticism of teachers.
No,
but the way in which it needs to be imparted, the rules, the regulations, the rigidity of the national curriculum. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you come at home educating or homeschooling from the perspective of everything we've been talking about how we are all being made compliant by the media, by the government. If you're a civil servant that challenges the norm, you are asked or invited to resign. And this conditioning and this control starts at a young age. So it doesn't surprise me that this government as well, the Labour government, that's becoming one of the most shameful Labour governments in history, is keen to constrain, constrict, and hem in any parent's decision to want to just step to the side of the system. And I just want to read May Edmondson makes a good point, because I think this is the red meat that the mainstream media and the government want us to think about. The tragic story of Sarah Sharif.
Oh my God.
They are using this as the reason behind this bill. All this will do is punish special educational needs children further and drive genuine abuse further underground. Now,
and the thing is, that she was neglected by an worked, underpaid social services as well. They knew about there was information on this guy. I listened to a podcast recently about how he actually got custody of her. And he had a whole history of abuse and violence. But the social worker was very young. They're overwhelmed. They're given so many cases. I hate it that we blame social workers. But it's the system again.
Can I just spin it round just for a moment? I think what you're saying is so but let's just spin it around for a moment. There are many children in schools that come from abusive homes. Do we, by the same standard, say ban all schools?
I've got 3 people that come to my mind immediately who have made complaints. One is a teacher, and 2 of them are mums who have witnessed and who know and have spoken to the child. All those 3 people have complained to 3. These are all people that know kids in different schools about abuse, known abuse that is going on. Guess what? Nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. So I really hate it when they use this as an excuse. What I would say, please, can you finance social services better? Can we treat these people better so they're not leaving the system in droves? You know, always everybody turns around and points a gun at social services and social workers. It's dire straits there. Caseloads are enormous, impossible for anyone to deal with. So I don't buy that as the reason to put in these rules about listing every person that.
No, I agree. Cheryl Jones, that's a good point. School is a safe place for many children. You're absolutely right. It's also a place, the only place where a lot of children get food. I don't think people realise
respite from a bad home.
Yeah, I don't think people realise just how many kids are under social services, having worked in a school for 10 years, and my daughter is a primary teacher. No, I agree. But my point about that is it's an ironic. I'm being purposefully kind of ironic in saying that just because you go to school doesn't mean that the kid doesn't come from a home that needs interrogating, investigating, care workers thrown in, and some kind of intervention. Just because you go to school. So I think
that's why I said school is the best place for many kids, but not for all kids.
I think, and I'm going to say it boldly, I think school is the worst place there is for any child for genuine growth and learning. Sorry, it's my opinion. I think every single subject is taught in a diminutive fashion. It's narrowed down, it's politicized, it's made accessible, and sometimes and doesn't in no way, shape or form caters for the varying needs of children. The idea that every child of 4 is the same, like would we say every person of 10, is that the way we systematize the developmental growth of kids, I think, is hideous and horrific.
And also, you know, I think it's the 5th year running that British girls are the unhappiest in Europe, right? And British kids, I can't remember where they come, just generally, and the amount that they put that down to our schooling system. They are tested and tested and tested. They are made to believe that if they don't get 10 GCSEs at this grade, then they're going to fail. And it was really interesting when our girls went back into the system and they came back saying things like, God, you know, just like so many of the kids don't have a passion because they spend so much. And where else in life are you going to have to remember reams and reams and reams of information? Like even a CEO going into their multi-million-dollar meeting would have all sorts of things, papers and computers, feeding them what they need. But we're expecting children to go in and remember hours and hours of information, put it down on paper, and then if you can't do that, then you are probably going to fail in life. It's wrong because it's not true.
Yeah, I just want to quickly just run through some of the proposals. The proposed Children's Wellbeing and School Bill will require home educators to register. I think registering is something that I do think there needs to be a register.
No, a lot of homeschoolers don't agree with that, but we do agree with
I don't have a problem with the register,
yeah.
But then the info on the register the register will require will include these sorts of things. I don't think it should require these. It requires the specific number of hours the child learns, how many hours with each parent or alone, the names and addresses of every person involved in their learning, details of every website used. It will be impossible for most families to provide this info, nor is it of any benefit to anyone. It will in effect ban most styles of home education. It goes on to require details of every group, activity attended, and can result in fines or prison for any person running a group if they fail to provide this information. They want the complete details and assessments of tutors. Tutors' fees will go up as tutors begin to back away from educating homeschool kids. We can't see swimming lessons, scouts, home ed month, arranged outings, etc. being willing to do that. They will stop offering access to home educators. The point about home education is there is an informality and lack of structure, sometimes, not always. It is about taking the control of how learning happens. If you then say you can be at home, you need to be seen every month, but you can only teach in this fashion.
Well, then you're putting the system that we don't like onto our kids.
It's ridiculous. It's
ridiculous. So weird, when we first started homeschool. Well, all the time we were homeschooling. The rage that some people
would be furious
because people don't want to question it, because we're not supposed to question it. We're all supposed to do it exactly the same way. And I'll have you know, if you want a quick update, our girls are doing so well. They're doing so well.
Yeah.
They went to the college that they wanted to go to. They went to the school that they wanted to go to. And
they have passions.
And they have real passions. Now, you always used to say, we wrote a book about homeschooling, actually, and you always used to, what was it used to call? The Jedi Knights.
Yeah, the Jedi Knights.
So, for instance, would we have to put down the incredible storytelling that my dad, who's come from the Middle East and can talk about politics across the world.
They need his email, his mobile.
They want his email, his mobile, and the hours
that
he's going to work, What about when you go to a homeschooling group and you've got such a diverse group of people, and our kids will talk to they like older people, don't they? And they will, the amazing conversations of the diverse people. That's education. Education is not just like head down. And they're both very strong people. One of them was incredibly shy, and we were told that basically that was an additional need. And she was getting so panicked and so anxious because they kept trying to make her not be shy. Well, now, having been around us a lot and us to just really hold her in a way through those difficult years, she's a quiet person with a strong opinion
and deep confidence.
Her confidence was on the floor, both of them.
It required
one
some
of them was
attention.
Bullied. One of them was bullied. That was a hell on earth, and I could still see it affecting her now. And it's what I always say: if you were going to your workplace as an adult and you were being horribly bullied every single day, would you stay in that workplace? No, but we expect children to just put up with them and go, oh, it will make them strong, it will get them ready for the world. It doesn't get them ready for the world.
It's funny, so many people who are so sort of nose in the air and judgy about homeschoolers are often people who send kids to either boarding schools, private schools, and sometimes I look at it literally is about humanity and heart as well as a parent. You get good parents, and I'm not saying humanity and heart as a parent is attached to what your class status is. But when that criticism comes at homeschoolers, one thing I would say about, and we're not talking about the rare incidences where, radicalization and control and this kind of stuff. That's where social services needs to kick in for both homeschooled kids and kids in schools. It should just be applicable across the board. You don't punish one sector. But I think the weird thing about it is, I think when you decide to homeschool your kid, and any homeschooling educating parents here who have done this, boy, oh boy, it is not an easy choice. It's graft for the parent.
So hard.
It's graft, and you are forever doubting, rechecking, reconsidering. You've got a system, and you've got other parents all telling you, it's a bit weird, it's a bit cloud cuckoo land,
and you're
it's a bit
scared.
hippie.
You get really scared. And we did something called deschooling, where for every year your child's been at school, you give them a month of absolutely no instructions. And we were so anxious, weren't we? We were so anxious because we'd taken our child out of school being told, she was so behind, she was this, she was that, all these different things. And but she was so stressed, you couldn't even ask her name and she would answer it back, because she was just always scared she was saying the wrong thing. So she'd been at school two years, wasn't it? So for 2 months, she was allowed to do exactly what she wanted all day. If that was to watch cartoons all day, if that was to draw. And we were like this, oh my God, what have we done? What have we done? But then out of that, she started, and we said to her the other day, didn't we? We said to her the other day, we can still see where that 2 months came in.
Yes, totally.
Because of because she didn't know what she liked. She didn't know what she wanted. She was just like in this place of thinking that she was rubbish. You know, at 6 years old, at 6 years old, you know, I mean, I will add.
I do like Louise N's comment. I'd like to be de-schooled. He's aged 41.
Well, our de-schooling was horrendous.
Yeah, we had to
Oh
de-school
my God,
ourselves.
it was awful in that panicked state, you know. So it would be lying in bed, just looking at a book rather than going.
And actually,
she's not reading. She's not reading the way she should be for a 4-year-old.
It's coming back to me, and although I really felt I took to it in the end really well as a kind of home educating parent, I loved it. I loved the process, the connection. I remember actually it being a much longer journey. I had a bigger thing to reach from, because for me, mainstream education, the weird thing about this is, for me, mainstream education was an absolute escape route for me. It opened up my mind, it opened up my heart. I was very lucky. It was back in a time when there were fewer rules and regulations. I had lots of hippie teachers. I went to Holland Park Comprehensive, which was like a very kind of liberal. And, you know, I just think I lucked out. I got lucky with where I was and at what time of the year, at what time of, you know, history that was. But, you know, I had to struggle away from. I felt deeply uncomfortable when we weren't officially following this syllabus.
Well, because you'd come from a very sort of
educated.
And Kimberly Jones, we have actually written a book, quite a few. I don't know if it's still available.
I think so. Yeah, on Amazon.
But,
Honey, I homeschooled the kids.
But I mean, I didn't even say. Probably, I've never really said to Mark, even until maybe right now, when I'm going to say it, is that I was terrified. And because Mark was more vocal about it, because, you know, Mark is highly educated, he went to uni, did all of that, I was petrified inside the whole time that he was right. But my instinct as a mum was just, I can't let her stay there. I just felt so strongly. And my God, I cried at night. It was hard. It's hard. You know, you're with your kids all the time. It is not an easy choice because we were both working. But we were very lucky because we had a big family and we had this would be a very difficult thing to do on your own, or if it's just the two of you. This isn't an easy, lazy choice. This is a very proactive choice. And I think when schools are so overcrowded, and, you know, you don't get anything from the government. You don't get any help. If they want to take GCSEs, you have to pay for them. You know, so aren't we giving a little bit of relief from the overcrowding in schools?
Straight after this, because we don't allow links to be posted because people use them in horrible ways. Please, everyone who's interested in this topic, go pump into YouTube Ken Robinson TED Talks and just go to the most watched one.
He was a genius.
And listen to him.
Schools kill creativity.
He was a transformational talk. His talk was transformational for me. I then realized retrospectively I'd met him at the bloody Royal Ballet when he was head of the Royal Ballet. And he is transformational about children and their creativity and education. I do want to just read this there. Kimberly Jones asks, would your book help me de-school myself as a 53-year-old? Do you know what? It's a very funny question. And part of me, as you said that, thought maybe we should apply the idea of de-schooling as a kind of form of self-help, because I think it would.
I think we do a lot of that on here, don't we? As Mark and I more and more shed. As you know, when people say, oh, all these people that are so woke. Woke means to be more awake to the world and maybe where we've been manipulated and where we're falling into a step that other people have said we need to take. So I think without realizing it, a lot of our conversations go along that way, don't
Absolutely.
they?
And really, Ken Robinson, not Ken Robbins, Ken Robinson.
Schools kill creativity.
Yeah. And also, and if you like him, go and listen to his Desert. He tragically passed away, but listen to his Desert Island Discs too. It's incredible. I agree. I mean, I think the way we approach a lot of things in our lives, both mental health, kids, politics, the world, I think it threaded through all of it is what homeschooling did. We were homeschooled too.
Why are so many teachers leaving?
Yeah.
And you meet many teachers in the homeschooling community.
Thank you, me too.
You know, again, when our daughter went back to school.
Woke is ignorance, sorry.
Yeah. She was like, oh my God, I mean, it's so noisy and they don't stop and they're so rude to the teachers and da, 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 da. You know, it's a lot. And then we wonder why our kids come back stressed and don't want to talk and are angry. It's because it's very bloody stressful.
Can I just ask a question? Why wouldn't the government, when just final comment on this, why wouldn't the government, when the education system is under duress like the NHS, why would this government not want a healthy number of parents, or even make it easier because I think after COVID, there was something like 80 to 100,000 parents were homeschooling, families were homeschooling. It used to be about 40,000 before COVID. Why would you not want to mobilize that? And in fact, if you don't want to promote it, just encourage it to be more easy and supported. Easy doesn't mean it's not monitored, or it's not kind of, you don't have people who check in with the parents who are educating. Do it in a way where it's not stigmatized. Why don't we start at that point?
Comments. I'm a teacher and I'm leaving after this baby is born. It's all about scores. Absolutely. Louise there. My daughter is 6, struggling with phonics. They have an assessment this week, bless her.
It takes me back
We
to
were
stress.
practically told that our child wasn't going to read.
Yeah.
And Mark bought, in the deschooling time, Mark bought, what do you call those magazines that you bought, the comics?
She used to love comics.
No, but they were special kind of comics. They're not
Graphic novels.
Graphic novels, right? So we stopped all the phonics that weren't going in, that wasn't working, and we just said, just take a look at these. I kid you not. After the summer, we were like, oh, let's just have a little go at trying to read again. What did she do? She opened these bloody graphic novels that she'd been looking at the whole time and started reading.
And then started writing fan fiction.
The pressure was off.
Yeah.
Find something that they really
Good question,
love.
Farida. Good question. Yeah.
I mean, phonics, bloody hell. I couldn't do the bloody phonics. Not everybody learns with phonics, do they? No. It's like a standardized way of teaching.
I love what Maya says. They can't keep track of their future workers. We're all just products.
Yeah.
Can't get nice little home office stats if kids are off learning whatever they want at home. And also manufactured consent. The government is all about, and the media is all about, keeping us hemmed in and behaved. Mm-hmm. And what does homeschooling perhaps allow in the child? Asking questions. Freer thinking, critical thinking. I mean, ironically, the educative system does not encourage as much critical thinking as we'd like to think.
And I've got something really shocking to tell you.
Oh my God, what?
You know how you think the only way you can go to university is if you've got A-levels?
Yeah, it's not.
It's actually not.
Yeah.
Because if you go in as a self-starter with amazing work, they actually jump on it. So it ain't always the way. Now, obviously, if you want to be a scientist or a doctor, it's very different. It's a very different situation, and you will need to go through the system. But
we know many science students and and what have you. The jobs aren't there. The system isn't working in the way that it used to. So why not, as a parent, find different ways to educate your kids? Andrea Harrington, my daughter is smiling and laughing again after struggling through the first 3 years of senior school. I had to get her out of that and help her to find herself again.
Our daughter burst into tears when we said, guess what, you're not going back to school from tomorrow. It was the most incredible moment, wasn't it? Somebody there just saying,
Laura Lou, one amazing teacher can make a difference, though. I stood with my son's teacher while she cried at his progress, and she was so proud of him.
Yeah,
that's
my sister's
teacher.
like that, and there's loads of good teachers, but a lot of good teachers will tell you that they're not being allowed
to be as good as they
could
could be
teachers. Yeah. Somebody went up there, actually, a teacher saying, there's no time to be a good teacher because there are so
Jill
many.
Dyer. When I was teaching years 1 and years 2, I didn't have time to teach as I was having to do so many assessments.
Assessing. We have the facts and figures, don't we? That plays. I think it's Sweden where you don't start actually the formal learning till like 6, 7, play. And a lot of European countries, they're tested like one big test at the end. We're testing them constantly, and it's stressful for parents, for children. We were having a 5-year-old coming home exhausted, and then I've been given a load of homework as well. So there was no real home life. Everyone was stressed.
So both our girls say whenever they pass a Kumon, they look at the logo, they go, there's a reason that logo looks so miserable.
Even the logo is miserable.
Shauna Roche, finally, do you think you would have been as fast to call into action and homeschool if it wasn't for your ADHD superpower and impulsiveness?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because we heard it the teacher
Well,
said,
go,
you know,
go.
you don't have to homeschool. And then, do you know about something called homeschooling? Went, no, went home, looked it up, deregistered at the next day. She never went back to school.
Guys, we're going to have to skedaddle. Thank you so much for everything, all your contributions, all your chat. We will see you later. Something will be landing on the channel later. And do subscribe if you haven't. And do check out either our book or Ken Robinson. Do look into it, homeschooling.